Good morning and welcome everybody to the Tadpole and GVO webinar on e-commerce, ERP and Analytics equals success. First off, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to join. We've been putting this together for a couple of weeks, very excited about the content and just ready to dive into the information. So first off, I'm just going to say our agenda today. We're going to first take a look a bit about who our panel members are. And then we're going to start off with the good stuff first. We're going to take a look at what you get when you have a product like Tadpole Pond and NetSuite ERP. What do you get? So we're going to look at that first. Then we're actually going to look at a SuiteCommerce website and how that plugs into NetSuite. And then Dirk Schimpa, founding partner of GVO, he's going to take you into the back office and show you the nuts and bolts of the NetSuite ERP, what you can get out of it, how that works. And then Jake from Tadpole is going to show you the Tadpole Pond product and take a look at item profitability and all the things that you can do with that really good NetSuite data that he can suck out of that system. So with that, we'll have some implementation thoughts and then Q&A at the end. So without further ado, this is our panel. My name is Todd Parrish. I'm a senior business consultant here at goVirtualOffice. I'm here on my 8th year. I am a NetSuite certified administrator. I'm also part of the Commerce Agency Partner Program and been a part of that for the last couple of years. And then Jake, you want to just give a quick overview of you?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for making time to attend. I'm a co-founder here at Tadpole. We work a lot with e-commerce using data science and AI, and I lead our team here of data scientists, finance, digital marketers, and software developers.
Awesome.
Great.
Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, everybody, again for attending. Yeah, I'll repeat as well. Thanks for attending. My name is Dirk Schimpa. I am the founder here at goVirtualOffice. We're going on some 15, 16 years, and we live and breathe NetSuite here. So we've got a great team, and definitely looking forward to this particular webinar. Thank you for joining with us, Jake.
Awesome. Thanks, Dirk. Thanks, Jake. So just a real quick 2 slides on who we are as a company. Just like Dirk mentioned, we've been doing this for 15 years. We are a NetSuite house. That's all we do. And we enjoy the product. We think that it's a great product, very flexible, very strong in many areas. So that's all we do is NetSuite. And in 2019, we were the Suite Success Partner of the Year. So nice to hang our hat on that. And like I mentioned before, we are part of the Commerce Agency program. That's a vetting process for those partners that do implement SuiteCommerce or SuiteCommerce Advanced. We've been in that program for about 5 years. So, and then Tadpole. We partner with them on a lot of projects because they're very smart people. We love working with them, and it's complementary products. They are also a NetSuite partner, and you can see that they're also certified for Bronto. They have the Tadpole Pond, that's certified built for NetSuite application. And we just really complement each other well, so we do work together on these types of webinars and with customers because it's a win-win scenario for our customers and for each of us. So that's a little bit about us, and you can see they have a lot of great customers here that they've been helping out for years. So like I said, great to have Jake on the call. So with that, we're going to jump right into the good stuff as promised. So with that, Jake, here you go.
Good morning. Thanks, Todd. So I kind of thought we'd start here with the big picture here to think a little bit about what's kind of going on. So this is data from the feds, just came in. This is 20 years of retail data and includes e-commerce. So those big vertical gray bars you see are recessions. So we have this kind of dot-com bust. We have 08, 09 there with the big one. And then the one on the far right there is kind of what's happening since COVID. And e-commerce has been kind of, growing in a nice kind of linear fashion if you look at that. But all of a sudden, what happened in Q2 is you see this thing just take off and grow. So e-com has always made up, we were around, recently around 15 to 16% of total sales. And now we're seeing it basically be 33%, almost overnight. So we'll see what kind of happens in Q3 and Q4. But what we're seeing, at least from our data, is all our customers are up anywhere from 20 to 50% in e-commerce. And for some of our clients, this is becoming a lifeline because if they're an omni-channel and they have brick and mortar, the ability to shift inventory dynamically online and use that as a way to kind of cash flow is proving kind of a lifeline right now. So this is an amazing graph. It's my favorite graph right now, purely because it kind of talks to the once in a generation opportunity here with what's going on in e-commerce. Can we go to the next slide, Todd? So we talked a little bit about this kind of like there's going to be a revolution in e-commerce, and then the next one is kind of a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek take on the Amazon conundrum, right? And the reason we kind of use Amazon as the Darth Vader in this situation is a lot of companies have put stuff on Amazon, and we certainly see that as a viable way to generate revenue. But there's also something that happens in that exchange of data, and we're seeing some customers that were locked out during the last quarantine where they couldn't sell as a non-essential for anywhere for 6 to 8 weeks, and then they wait another 90 days to get their cash. And so Amazon will finance off your growth, and they also take your data in the process. And for a long time, they had the infrastructure and all that, which they still do, obviously. But there's a shift here with e-commerce and the data and what you can do with it. So that's kind of our mission here, is we kind of want to be the lightsaber for the Luke Skywalkers and the Rebel Force, to give them this AI as a way to kind of strike back against the big beast, which is Amazon. Next slide. So how do you do that, right? So what is Amazon really good at, and how do we kind of beat them at their own game? Well, part of this gets into kind of finding the right customer that will fit for your business. Whether you're B2B or B2C, it doesn't really matter. If you look at that graph from the Feds, it just doesn't matter, because people are going to have to go online to buy something. And that shift in consumer behavior means that customer wants that experience. So we're going to think about kind of the right channel, because some people maybe want to see an online ad. Maybe some people see email. Maybe somebody Googles something or watches a YouTube video. And then we got to kind of show them the right product, which is obviously what Amazon's very good at with their recommendation engine. And the key piece is to do that at the right time. And we'll talk about this a little bit later in the presentation. But as we say, you want to find your right customer within the right channel with the right product, and then do that at the right time. That idea of surfacing something that's of value. So here's a couple of screenshots on what you can do with that data, and we'll talk a bit more about this again later. But we see like how much does SEO make up for our revenue? How much does paid search, like running ads on Facebook or Google Shopping? How much is email doing? And by the way, email is kind of an annuity. When it's up and running, it just can consistently generate cash if you target your segments correctly. And then we have things like referral traffic, Reddit, forums, things like that. And then what do you do with that? Well, then you can start to see what your health of your business is based on channel and customer type. So we can see first-time customers versus repeat customers, how many first-time customers came in or buy with organic search versus repeat. This graph, for example, that's a really healthy business, because you get a lot of that repeat customers coming in through Google, which means they're not paying for that traffic. So these first-time and repeat customers are kind of the canary in the coal mine for the health of the e-commerce business. And the really good way to see that is how they're getting to your site. If you're having to buy them to come back, that's not always good. So in that second graph, we see there's a little bit more probably than we'd like to see for repeat customers with paid ads. All right, so the customer data is the first piece we're going to talk about. Next slide. We're going to talk about how we optimize spend. So this is going to be really exciting here in a little bit, as Dirk will show you the power when we have this customer data. So when we understand the customers and what they want to buy, and we have things like size and color preferences, now we can take that margin data as well that exists in the ERP system, and we can run ads against that in customer preferences as well. So this is one quick example. This was Max Prairie Wings, which is a NetSuite client, the first one to do Suite Success actually, and has to compete against Cabela's and Bass Pro. And so by being able to grab that ERP data, we're able to kind of like run ads against that. And a common metric in the online world is return on ad spend, or ROAS, is what you'll hear it called a lot. So you usually see maybe 200 to 300%. So I spend $1, I make $2 back, $3 back. When we're able to get the AI and the ERP data, we're able to kind of 10x that. So we're getting 2,000% return on ad spend by using some of that customer data with the ERP inventory data as well. Next slide. And then the last piece is, okay, data is great, but what do you do with it? You know, I have an Apple Watch. I can't say that I'm in phenomenal physical shape because I don't get my 10,000 steps in a lot of days. So when you have data, how do you change behavior? How do you act on data in real time? And there's something going on all the time in e-commerce. It's 24/7. So a lot of what we're trying to build here with the Tadpole pond, kind of a data pond, if you will, is smoke detectors for things that are going off that you don't need to know, that you didn't know were a problem. So for example, this is a redacted customer, but you know, they gave us a 2 out of 10 on the Net Promoter Score, meaning how likely you to recommend us. Well, they had a bad experience because they signed up for the email to get the discount code and they never got it. Well, the system can catch things like that and send that to the head of customer support. So maybe we spent $15, $20 acquiring that customer on Facebook. They had a bad experience. We can catch that in real time. And then before we send out a bunch more emails, we have that fixed like almost instantly within the Bronto system. So that idea of like working with data and catching it in real time to generate revenue is a huge opportunity Just like your smoke detector, 99.9% of the time you don't need it until you have a grease fire in the kitchen and then it goes off. So that's a lot of what we're trying to do with this next iteration of how you work with data and experience data. Then also, the system should be smart enough to let you know when something's a real problem. Next slide. And the next piece is, how do you automate campaigns? So mid-market, like a lot of us have small teams. We're trying to do a lot, especially in this economy. You're tasked with trying to get big results with a small team. And so this is where we have to kind of, steal a play from Amazon and use the AI. We have to be thinking about ways that we can let the robots do the working with data and surfacing the insights, and the human should be able to do the fun, creative stuff. So when we're able to kind of get all these systems in place to hum, we can instantly start to think about lowering our ad costs by only running ads against customers that are most likely to purchase, or with products that we have deep in stock on and good margins. And so when we get all these pieces in place, what we do is we start to see the profitability, not just top line, but especially profitability, really start to take off as we're able to automate a lot of these campaigns. And the cool thing with this we see over and over again is, instead of paying Google and Facebook or Instagram to find these customers, we can go to Google and Facebook and say, hey, don't run ads we want it to these other people. We want just these very small segments of customers. And that's how we see those 2,000% return on ad spends, by doing that. Next slide.
Okay, thanks, Jake.
Okay, so with that, I'm all done, and I'll turn it over to Dirk here on how do you use the data to get these kind of insights, and how do you have to have the infrastructure set up so that we can do the magic.
Mute.
Sorry, is everyone seeing my screen?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, great. So thank you very much, Jake. I'll kind of walk you through NetSuite and some of the good stuff from an analytics and reports piece here. So I'm currently logged in as a CEO here in NetSuite, and just a couple things. NetSuite, a little big picture about NetSuite. It is a cloud accounting ERP distribution system, very well suited for e-commerce companies, both B2B and B2C. So, as a CEO, maybe I want to run balance sheets, income statements, look at some cash flow information. How's my bank balance running this period, the last period? Where's my cash, my coming in and my cash going out? All of those kind of things are really important. So, just kind of know that NetSuite is a full accounting system and very robust from that standpoint. But as it would relate to what we're talking about today in e-commerce and inventory and, down to a customer and product level, we have, sales by customer, for instance. So again, here's a sales by customer report. We could run this by month, for instance. And this will give us a columnar view by month of sales. But I could also run this by class, which typically would be like a product line. So your different lines of business or different product SKUs and lines. So again, you can see computing and assets and food and beverage, whatever those product lines would be, as well as channel. Channel can be different things. Jake was talking about channel from like YouTube versus SEO versus paid ads, but channel can also be, where you sell stuff on Amazon or through EDI and big box stores, or working with manufacturing reps, or your own web store, whether it's SuiteCommerce, which Todd will walk through here, or Shopify or something else. Again, you can run reports on all of those different things. So again, that would be running it by customer. Maybe you want to run a profit, a revenue. How am I doing at a customer level? Revenue, cost, margin by customer. So you know who your top most profitable customers are. What about inventory profitability? Again, this is one thing that Jake definitely talks a lot about is know your margins, know your costs. What are your more profitable products? Put ad spend, put dollars to your more profitable SKUs versus your or lesser profitable SKUs. So again, at a SKU level, product line level, you'll see quantity, cost, revenue, gross profit, all those things. Another key, measurement for an inventory-based company is turnover, right? So how is my inventory turning over? Do I have inventory that's stagnant, that's been sitting around a long time? So at that point, maybe I need to do a promotion or some sort of special ad to kind of get that inventory out and get more heavily higher moving inventory in. So again, lots of unique things and just canned reports that just come out of the box that can help you manage your company. The other thing I'll also call out would be sales and marketing. So again, NetSuite has full, e-commerce that Todd will walk you through. It's completely integrated or just part of the back office. But it also has full CRM. So, there's definitely companies that sell through e-commerce. They also have sales reps. They work both in a B2B, B2C environment. And again, you can do quoting, you can watch leads, sales activities, see who your top sales reps are, all of those things. So that's a little bit from a kind of a macro standpoint. Let's get down to, a purchasing manager. So as a purchasing manager, they also have their own role. They can see, they can quickly order items. They can run that inventory turnover report, look at late POs, all of those different things. Cost of goods sold, all sorts of different things. What inventory is available to sell, very much kind of key stuff for them. But again, in purchasing or the warehouse, you want to be able to, print picking tickets and pick, pack, and ship, so you can manage your whole warehouse solution and have full accuracy of, what's on hand, what's available, what's on a purchase order. And I'll go through some of that in a little bit more detail. But again, from an analytics standpoint, how many packages am I shipping and selling? How many returns are out there? Are those going up or down? Why is that? What's my average dollars of sales, average number of orders? If we look on the receiving side of things, creating POs, receiving purchase orders, doing blanket contracts. And again, all sorts of analytics on late POs, number of receipts, average days late, all of those things. And then the last one would be, inventory. So what's going on with my inventory? Is it trending up? So anytime you see inventory trending up, your cash is going down. So, these are all things you definitely want to keep an eye on and watch. And again, what's available to sell. Another thing is, you're just looking at your inventory, right? So, here's my inventory. I can easily see what's on hand, what's available, what's committed, what's on back order, what I need to, what's on a purchase order, all of those things. Maybe I want to drill into this MacBook, for instance, and we'll see right here, NetSuite provides us what is called this Item 360 view. Again, more analytics that is just right at your fingertips to kind of look at, well, what's the demand? I've got all these sales orders going out all the way into December for this quantity, right? So you get really good visibility of what that demand for product is. Well, okay. Well, what about on the purchasing side? Do I have POs out there that are going to support that? Again, you can kind of look forward into the future to see, what POs or what work orders, again, if you're a manufacturing company. If you want to look at margin information, again, this is, I already highlighted where Jake and Tadpole uses this margin information in all sorts of campaigns and what to promote and when and where at the right time and all of that stuff. So again, margin information, average price, average margin, and then historical, kind of looking back, where, what you're selling when. You kind of peak in certain months over the summer and then kind of drop down in the winter on certain SKUs. NetSuite has all of this data, and again, this can be used later on both with Tadpole, but also within, and I'll talk about like demand planning and some ways to automate different things. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Dirk. So I'm going to go ahead and then dive right into the Suite Commerce product. And sure we're displaying here. And here we go. So first off, Suite Commerce is NetSuite's e-commerce product. It is not a bolt-on. It's actually part of NetSuite, and it was built to be right within, so you have great access to information. And we're not going to take a ton of time looking at the store itself, because really it's a web store, and just like you would imagine on Amazon or any other businesses, that it is a fully functioning web store. You're going to have your different landing pages. You're going to have your store locator, this natural functionality, or request a quote. If you have like a B2B, and it's for B2B or B2C, it's what's really nice about NetSuite is that you can have that experience for both. Depending on what your channel is, you can go ahead and build out NetSuite to have that flexibility. If you want to do a quick order or what have you. Also, there's a site management tool that's going to allow you to go ahead and add additional landing pages, or change the color scheme, or add the branding that matches up with what you want. And NetSuite has 6 different themes. Summit is one of them that we're going to look at today, but there's also 5 other ones. And if you ever want to see those, you can reach out to us and we can get you some examples. But the thing I'm going to focus on is really talking about like the product itself. And Dirk had mentioned that like the MacBook Pro. And as you can see here, as we get down to the category level, that we're going to have the natural fastest that are coming from the data. And then also you're going to have that item information here. So if we look at that MacBook Pro, I'm going to see it's at 1386. I'm going to see a lot of information on the details. I'm going to take a look at my reviews, which are all in the back office in NetSuite. I'm going to have some recommended products and also correlated items. Now, if I go back in the NetSuite, I'm looking at that same thing. This is the same account, the same data. So you're going to see here, I have a web store tab where I have all my descriptions. So I can update this here. I hit save, and that's going to update on that web store. I'm going to be able to control my out-of-stock behavior. You'll have a standard out-of-stock behavior, but you can also go to the item level and say, hey, you know what? I want to remove this item when it's out of stock. You know, like Jake talks about, like, hey, why are you selling something that's not making you money or you don't have in stock? Well, naturally, NetSuite's going to say, hey, when this goes out of stock, drop that off the website on this item. Now, I can do that as a whole website as a whole, or the specific item. Also, I can have like search keywords if I want to. So if I go back in here to the website, and I go up to the top and I do search, and I type in best laptop, guess what's going to come up? Oh, not should come up with that. Apologize, but it'll show that item there. Then also you can add some meta HTML tags if you want there. Also, it showed those related items. Before, if you looked on that item down at the bottom, you saw these 3 here. Well, those are matching up to what we said we want those to always see. But then also it has the correlated items, which is going to go off your lift or over the overall purchase rate. And you're going to set those parameters when you set up your website. So when they go to that PDP or the checkout, they're going to see that information. And also, the always important pricing. So if I'm coming here looking at this item, I'm looking to see at 1386.58, and if I go back to this, I'm seeing 1386.58. And that's because I haven't logged in. So if I log in though, and while this is logging in, I'm going to go look at that customer that I'm logging in, and this is Thomas Industries Supply. And under the financial tab, we're going to see that they have the wholesale price. If I'm looking on that item, I'm going to see that's $10.49. So if I come back here, I'm logging in, I go back to that item. Now I'm going to see that that item's at $10.49 because it knows, since I'm logged in and all that information is synced, I don't have to worry about keeping that in 2 separate systems. But let's say that Thomas is a really good customer, and we want to make sure that when they buy these, that they're going to add, get the best pricing. So I want to go ahead and I'm going to add this item here and give them a custom price. So if I go in here, I say for $9.99, add that, save this, make sure it stays there. Bear with me, it's a demo account. So when I go ahead and refresh, now that price is updated to $9.99. So I can have my list price that everybody sees. I can go ahead and have those price levels assigned on the customer record. So hey, if I have a wholesaler or a channel, and they log in, they're going to get their price level. Then I can go ahead and have that specific price identified on the customer record. So with this product, we're going to go ahead and buy that. I'm going to view cart and check out. I'm going to proceed to checkout here. And as you go through, a lot of this information that's on the customer record is already, NetSuite already knows that. It's already going to have those addresses that I have there. If I go into NetSuite and I look at my addresses, that's the same addresses. It's going to use my default shipping, my default billing. It's going to have all my shipping, which is stored in NetSuite. And if I have a natural integration built out to USPS, UPS, FedEx, etc., it's going to go ahead and look. I know what those prices are going to be. Nobody's going to have to guess on that. So I'm going to just go with the ground. And then it's going to go off my terms. So right here, I'm going to see what my terms are for the customer and what my available balance is. Okay, so I'm in the know. And then also, if there's any promo codes that are set up in the back office, it's going to auto apply here or give them the opportunity to select it. It knows about my billing address. I'm going to hit continue. And here I'm ready to place my order. So it's going to calculate the tax, which is all set up in the back office in your NetSuite account. As the shipping, I hit place order. It's going to create that sales order in the back office. Now, the last thing I'm going to show on the website before I turn it over to Dirk is one of the best features of the eCommerce is the My Account functionality. And that My Account functionality is just like if you're paying your electric bill or what have you. It's going to give you the opportunity to go log in and see different orders, your transactions, and your account balances. So I'm just logging over here to my account, the same login. It's just a different part of the website. Pull up here in a second. And I can see that sales order that I had. I can see my recent purchase history. I can see any returns I have. If I have an item that's set up to be returned, I can initiate return from my account. I can reorder my items. And also, if I'm a B2B and I want to have quotes out there, you can go ahead and have your quotes created in the back office, show them in my account when it hits a certain status, and your customers will be able to add those to cart and go ahead and move forward. You have your wish list. You have your billing where you can see different transaction history. You can see your different account balances. Take a second here to pull up those transactions. But you can make payments on your account. You can see what your account balance is. And then also you can see cases. So if you created support cases in NetSuite, you can see those. You can initiate support cases, and you can also reply. And you can see here with the transaction history, I can see cash receipt, payments, deposit, etc. They can go in and look at all that information. So with that, we've created our sales order, and I can see it here. So now it's time for Dirk to show the back office.
Great, thanks, Todd. Yeah, one thing I'll call out, just with the whole eCommerce store, we're definitely in a B2C environment. All of that stuff is very, that's how we all, Jake even called it up. It's up to 33% of all of us as a consumer. We are, we're used to that environment. One thing to really kind of think about is in a B2B environment, there's no reason that your B2B customers can't be transacting the same way as a B2C customer. They can log in, they can see their prices, they can add to cart, and then when they check out, they don't have to put the credit card in. It just creates a sales order in the background. And then they can, if they have an issue with a product or something, they can create a customer support case. They can make payments online. So you got to kind of think about, well, this is very much what a consumer is used to using, you can give to your B2B customers as well. So anyways, back to NetSuite here. As Todd said, he, on the eCommerce store, they submitted, they went and checked out. Once they check out, that actually just creates sales orders in the background or in the back office. So, and sales orders can come from anywhere. Definitely sales orders can come from eCommerce, but we have a lot of clients that use eCommerce. We have other clients that use Magento or Shopify. There are integration utilities, so those orders can come in. We have a number of clients that sell products on Amazon. They may sell EDI through to big box stores or through manufacturing reps. There's all these different ways that orders come in via your channels. So, what this particular screen allows an end user, somebody with authority to review those orders. If they all look good, they would just mark mark and submit and approve those orders. Once you approve an order in NetSuite, it commits that inventory if it's available to that order or to those orders. They're available now for printing out a pick ticket and everything else. So the process just kind of moves forward. So what I was going to walk you through is just an example of, okay, we've got all these orders. They're all approved. NetSuite has a very robust kind of demand planning engine. Think of MRP. So again, the dashboard itself, you can, see top 25 items purchased. Again, we can look at inventory status information. We can look at forecast information by SKU. We can look at all sorts of supply information. So again, there's all these dashboards. But in the end, we're gonna run our demand plan. So we have these different projection methods. We can kind of look back in history. We can do this kind of linear projections. There's all sorts of different things that we're going to do. We're just going to do sales forecast. We can put them in weekly or monthly buckets. I'm going to do weekly. We're going to mark all, and we're just going to look out 26 weeks. We can go up almost to a year, but in the end, we're gonna run this demand plan. So what does this do? So this basically will look at all sales orders, even quotes, and it will basically come up with a plan. So by SKU. So let me open up the one item we've been looking at here, the MacBook Pro, and you can see we're doing weekly buckets for all of 2020, and you can see here, running out the end of this year, these are all the quantities that I need, that I have to ship out based upon the sales orders that are there. Okay, well that's great. So then the next thing would be to run a supply chain, to run a supply plan. Now, the supply plan looks on the other side. So again, we're gonna, start this as of the 1st. I'm gonna actually run this out, maybe May of 21. And what this does, I'll hit submit here. This looks at what's on hand. It looks at safety stock, looks at lead times, looks at incoming purchase orders, and basically finds any gaps where you're short. And then what it's going to do is it's going to recommend creating purchase orders. So let's again open up the supply plan now for this item. And we can see now, based upon, here's all of the POs that we would need to make for this thing. The other thing I would call out is this is very much for, basically a distributor. If you are a manufacturer, this works the very same way to recommend creating work orders as well as creating purchase orders. So it works both in a manufacturing environment as well as a purchasing environment. So again, here's what's called the gross requirements inquiry, and it's just all the ins and outs, the planned orders coming in and out, any safety stock. So it's just literally all the ins and outs. So that's great. So now that we have that, we can go to our order items screen. And here's all of the kind of basically purchase orders. So again, I can filter on a planner, I can filter on a vendor. In the end, I just want to kind of focus on, what I need through the 15th. So here's, everything I need through the 15th. You can see, I get these two items from Microshop. So I'm going to mark all. I get a couple of these items from Apple Store. And if I scroll over here, it's basically telling me, what I need to order and the price. And you could change, well, let's over order on this one. I'm only going to order 30 here, and they're giving me a special price here. So again, you can change the pricing. But in the end, this is just going to automatically create purchase orders and then email them out. So very easy to look at, what your demand is, what's your supply, what's coming in, and then basically auto-create purchase orders or work orders. Some other nice features within NetSuite, I'll let that continue processing and we'll come back, but some other nice features is there's this whole supply chain control tower. And again, it looks at, inventory balances. It looks at, highlights any late purchase orders or late sales orders. It actually does some analysis on likelihood of goods coming in or going out, and kind of assigns risk factors. So There's, again, all sorts of tools around that. The other thing we have is, all sorts of reports, and I already talked about them a little bit, but here's an inventory back order report. So here's looking at, your inventory that's on back order at an item level. So here's, that. Here's an example of a sales order back order report. Again, so you can look at which sales order are in danger. And then we do have a number of customers that go to trade shows. They get large bulk orders, and they have to kind of decide who gets what inventory. If you have a limited number of inventory, who gets that inventory first? So there is this whole commit order process where you can kind of prioritize, your A customers versus your B versus your C's. You can filter on dates, all sorts of different things to kind of mass commit inventory to some sales orders and not others. So lots of functionality to manage inventory, view inventory, and work through, everything you need around, the management of your inventory. So thank you.
Okay, now we're going to take a look at the Tadpole Pond with Jake. So Jake, you're up.
Awesome. Thanks, Todd. And as Dirk was mentioning, there's so much gold in that data. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit about our Built for NetSuite application and more importantly, what you can do with all that fantastic operations data. I've been an adjunct professor since 2007. And I can tell you, teaching digital marketing and analytics at the undergrad, grad, and exec ed level, marketers tend to flee from finance and operations a lot of times. They want to do fun, creative stuff. So with e-commerce, it's certainly possible, but you have to make sure you have some of that really key core elements of the business, like margin data, inventory turns, all that really good stuff that the CFO loves. So this gives you a quick rundown on kind of what the homepage looks like when you log in. There's three things that make up your e-commerce top line number, right? Your traffic, how many people are converting on your website, and then what's your average order value. And if you think about e-commerce, it really comes down to just three simple pieces. You got to grow traffic, you got to get conversions, and then you have to retain those customers you purchased along the way. And so there's lots of pieces that you can move within that those different dials, but that ultimately adds up to this piece of it. So executives like this is very high level. This is kind of tracking year over year and our forecast. And what you see really common and especially in direct-to-consumer e-commerce is that there's a huge spike in the fourth quarter when we all go out and buy our holidays gifts. So this kind of helps track and see what's going on as well. But the nice thing is if your e-commerce team is missing their goals, like this is going to catch that early. So if you're way off in June, July, and August, you can start to work on that versus, getting into the fourth quarter and finding out that they're off by 30%. So for mid-market, some of this stuff can be a little bit overwhelming because you have different data sets. So it's all in one place. We can all go to one spot, really 24/7 and look at stuff and be on the same page. This just shows some demographics, what our traffic looks like by gender. And then we're starting to see some changes year over year. That's a big thing we're always looking at. We're always segmenting data year over year or against, different ways to compare kind of an apples to apples piece. So here we're seeing changes in device for revenue. So how much money are we making on mobile? So in this data set, for example, we're seeing way more money in mobile, which is pretty common these days as everybody shops on their phone. But down here, you're on tablet. And the nice thing is when we see things like this, now we can go work with GVO and say, hey, we got to really think about the mobile experience because the revenue is really accelerating in that channel. So how do we make sure the Suite Commerce Advanced and all the mobile experience is super spot on, which out of the box with NetSuite, it's pretty much good to go. So that's fantastic. Then we see some top revenue by products and things like that. This is a good example of some data where the product name might need to get a little bit more cleaned up, but we pull some different pieces there. But we're starting to see kind of what's moving in the quantity sold. We set out to build this. We tried to think about kind of one place to run e-commerce. And, part of that is running projects. So if we have to send an email campaign out, what all the things have to get done? This is kind of a task management piece. And then tying that data again back to what we're working on. I won't go into that right now. I'm going to go into something I think is just super exciting. Harvard Business Review in January had the cover story about customer lifetime value. And so with our work with PE groups, private equity and investors, they're super interested in what the customer lifetime value is. And companies that focus on this tend to grow 250% faster than companies that ignore this as a metric. So when we think about customers and customer data, it is a gold mine to increase the overall valuation of the business. So here we're looking at our new customer average order value, and we're looking at our returning. And now we're starting to track the health of our business a little bit. Again, every month we're looking at that data, and what's that ratio look like? We see that typical swing in the fourth quarter, as always. But the nice thing is we're seeing a good mixture and repeat customers as we get into our big demand time of the season. And knowing, as Dirk just mentioned, what those demand curves look like and being able to do demand planning on our inventory, all that ties into making sure we can really crush this kind of fourth quarter, knowing that's what's going to happen with repeat customers. And we can even partition inventory where our best customers are going to get an email ahead of time and they'll get the first dibs on the inventory as well. Again, we're not paying for that with an ad. We're using email or channels, really the only channel you own, email or SMS, to kind of reward that loyalty. This shows a little bit new versus returning year over year, some things like that. And then we're going to go down here and look at conversions by age and gender as well. So seeing what people buy by age and gender is really powerful, because we might realize, like, wow, we have a pretty good audience with men 25 to 34. That can drive some fun creative campaigns with our ads. We can also see conversions by time of day. And this is really fascinating because certain customer sets will purchase at certain times that are really counterintuitive to what you would expect. So they may buy on Sunday afternoons, which isn't what you normally would think, but a lot of, like one of our customers, they have a huge male demographic that buys between 2 and 5 p.m. So we'll turn down ads at that time and we'll start to send our emails Sundays between 2 and 5, knowing from the data that that's when they're most likely to purchase. And this just gives us a little bit of, geographic data to know what conversions are happening by users. And this is helpful because we can start to geo-target our ad buys against different segments across the U.S. We've open sourced a tool around this here. I'll talk about here in a few minutes to do that as well. This does some other fun stuff with looking at, again, that lifetime value metric, which is kind of fun. We can see how that's performing. But again, what do you do with the data? All this is great, but how do you go make money with it and, more importantly, profit? Well, this is where we start to see a little bit of the peak of the AI coming in, where the robots are going through and saying, like, hey, we know our customers churn at a certain point, or they're more likely to. How do we go reach those customers? And this is where the robots have done the hard work in the background to say, prime to purchase, these are our customers most likely to purchase. We'll download that, we'll send an email or run a paid campaign against that, or a lookalike audience. And that's when we see those kind of massive 2,000 to 3,000% return on ad spend, because we're using that really good behavioral data and purchase behavior to kind of drive this as well. Next step, this is where we're going to tie in some of that beautiful, delicious ERP data, which sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but this is the gold mine for running profitable e-commerce. And it's really the hidden variable that trips up a lot of e-commerce businesses, is they can't kind of get these variables right. So here we're seeing a client that sells, again, kind of say hunting or outdoor products. We're seeing seasonality shifts here, which is nice. So we know we got to, this hunting clothing moves a lot at this time of the year. Casual stuff might have a spike in January and then it falls off. So we're starting to see things, our revenue, our percent of revenue as well. And this can be helpful for your marketing team that maybe doesn't spend a lot of time thinking about percent of revenue or margin data, but if we can get them focused on that and starting to sort stuff by that, that's really, really powerful as well. Here again, we're going to pull that ERP data in. We're going to look at, for example, let's look at casual, I don't know, let's think about maybe some footwear, for example, or something like that. We'll do men's accessories. That's going to pull that ERP data in, and we'll start to see what's looking. And now we're starting to see what we call gateway products. So what that is these are the products that are the gateway to the brand, if you will. They most likely purchase this product first, and they kind of go off into the product mix. So again, the right customer, right product at the right time. And then we're using these most profitable products. So we can also start to say, hey, we move this Stetson Gambler Straw Cowboy hat is the one to really push because we have really good margins on it. We can start to run various targeted campaigns off that as well. And then the last piece is that campaign. Okay, half of marketing's wasted. We just didn't know which half. That's been a curse for about 125 years. So we're trying to solve that perennial problem. And what we're thinking about here is, again, revenue by channel, as we saw earlier, how this breaks out for new versus returning. So we can start to get a sense of, well, geez, is SEO really working, or how much is email performing? And no surprise here, our email for our returning customers is just a gold mine. And again, we're not paying for that click or that interaction. So really, really exciting opportunity we think about that. And now we're looking at how we're running campaigns at a high level. So a smart shopping feed, what that means is we're taking that ERP data If you're selling plumbing supplies, stereo parts, whatever it is, we can feed that into Google with an image and reviews and all that rich ERP data, and we can start to optimize if we're going to run an ad. And maybe we don't sell a lot of those at not good margins, so we're not going to really worry about that. But some of those can perform extremely well when they're finally tuned off that ERP data. So we're going to look at revenue, our conversion rate, and our users off that as well. So a ton of other things here that go through, but hopefully, and I'll finish on this, the last piece here is we can start to look at, say, for example, a specific campaign. And this is giving you real-time data on a campaign we ran on 4th of July. So year over year, you can kind of compare that as well. So CFOs like this because they're trying to determine budgets, and when they can kind of say, well, we ran a 4th of July campaign, what did it do for us? We can kind of pull that up. Well, last year we did, about $5,800, but we had a pretty low conversion rate. Here's kind of how it performed leading up to 4th of July. So we're seeing revenue by day as well. And then again, it looked like we ran a lot of ads and paid search. Email drove a little bit. Here's some demographic data. And again, seeing the products and some geographic data as well by campaign. So very helpful for teams to think about running seasonal campaigns and what worked and what didn't. And if something didn't perform last year, then hey, let's kill it. Or we did really well on Labor Day. Let's think about boosting that as well. So that is kind of the product there a little bit. Pulling data, we just, data's everywhere. We don't care really where it comes from. We're going to run the extension cord and turn on the lights with it and try to make it sense for the digital marketer and then to use the AI. The last piece I'll kind of finish on here is the Tadpole Benchmark. So we just open sourced this for 2020. And what you can do is you can go to benchmark.tadpole.com. You can go there live right now and it'll show just kind of what's happening. And we've aggregated lots and lots of e-commerce sites from big brands to small brands, and we built some averages so you can kind of see daily shifts in e-commerce. If you're interested and you want to see how your site compares, you can just click in. It authenticates with Google Analytics, stays completely anonymous, and then you can go through and compare your site. So for example, we're seeing that the benchmark, this site is up quite a bit on last Thursday, but the benchmark was pretty flat. So this company did really well, but they had kind of an off day on Monday compared as well. So you can see kind of the benchmark overall is down a little bit, which is pretty common with the election going on. We're seeing that kind of across our portfolio, but this site's actually doing really well, which is kind of encouraging. And this helps with some of the paranoia, right? I mean, Amazon has all this great data. They can compare, make really good decisions with massive troves of data and identify trends. We're trying to kind of, again, equip that mid-market company with the same insights as well. So looking at, again, those 3 factors that make up revenue, average order value, conversion rate, and traffic. We're seeing how traffic comes to the site. You can compare your site to the benchmark. Again, massive shifts in negative traffic given the election. When we look at this site, we're seeing actually some, socials performing quite a bit. So they're doing really, really well there compared to the benchmark. And last piece is kind of look at the geographic data. So if you see, wow, the benchmark's seeing kind of, nice movement here in Chicago, maybe New York, down here in Texas, different places. But this site is not capitalizing on, for example, around in Texas. Now we can, again, push saying, hey, there's some data showing that people are still selling into these regions. Let's go and test some stuff there. And then looking at basically traffic, loyalty, and revenue, and if there's any changes with new users versus returning, and also some shifts in devices as well. And the last piece, this is a free dashboard we'll open source with Google Data Studio. So you can build your own custom dashboard, and once you've signed up, you have your own account you've created. You can embed this, so you can have whatever very specific dashboard matters to your team or yourself. So you can go here every morning, kind of check and pull that out. And we'll have a blog post and a video up here shortly that kind of walks you through how to set that up with Data Studio. So with that, Todd, that's kind of what we have for a quick overview of the Pond and the Tadpole Benchmark.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake. So the last area you have is putting it to use. So I'm going to turn it right back over to you, Jake, and we're going to start out with the Tadpole area, and then we'll work over to Dirk in the GVO side.
Perfect. So to wrap up real quick, if you think about e-commerce, there's kind of this like flywheel effect. And so when you have kind of the customer data, as we just showed you, and then you feed that into your marketing campaign, so get better customers, and the ones you have, reward them. And then you feed that catalog in. That's what we kind of talk about as a flywheel that make that go, kind of spin around and round. So that's kind of a useful model we teach a lot in our exec ed workshops with clients. Next slide. So this is kind of, okay, this is, if you remember nothing from today on what I spoke about, this hopefully kind of illustrates like what this can kind of do as a little animated gift. So we're overstocked on dresses. We know customers are ready to buy dresses. We send them an email just to that customer base. We don't send it to everybody else. When you do that, you can see things like 42% lift in average order value. And as we like to say, this is kind of valuable personalization. The idea of like, hey, this is an offer. You know, statistically, you're ready to purchase a dress. We're deep in stock on these. We didn't move them fast enough, so we can either discount or whatever, move it that with that customer, which preserves margins if done correctly, and it prevents bugging customers with an offer that doesn't resonate with them. Next slide.
Okay.
Perfect. So we're going to talk a little bit how to get started here. And this can seem a little bit overwhelming. So what we like to think about is marketing is kind of a funnel, right? We have a lot of customers. You know, 98% of people on a website don't convert. You have about 1 to 2%. So a lot of them, you know, you have a lot of opportunities in that middle of the funnel to kind of nurture them, get them to convert, and then treat them very differently once they purchased from you. And if they're very loyal customers, purchase, they don't use on discounts, they don't return. Think about how you can build loyalty programs around that. So the way we like to get started is add your site to the benchmark. It's a great way to see if you're way off or on. So if you're way below or way, you know, have some issues with conversion rates, it's a great time to call GVO and say, hey, we're seeing low conversion rates. We might need to work on some pieces here. If your traffic isn't performing against the benchmark or you're not seeing consistent results in line, it's worth kind of like, it seems like we're not quite keeping pace with the index or the averages. All of our clients, we can start with a very small project of a discovery audit. And it goes over growing traffic again, converting, and then retaining your online customers. We'll look at the site, the analytics, and then also your competitors as well. And then we also do a thing we call kind of a tech and talent roadmap, where we kind of look at, you know, these are all things, you know, roles and responsibilities you need to have really built out in your team. And also here's the technology you need to kind of think about as you kind of grow and scale. And then from that, we come with recommendations on what needs to get done to drive that traffic. And we also look at that traffic sources over 24 months. So if you're planning on big lists in SEO, we can catch that like, that may not be reasonable in 18 months. We need to be thinking about some other pieces there. And that can be kind of a gut check on if you're going to try and really grow e-com, like what's it going to take from a budget perspective. And then the last piece is the strategic recommendations for growth.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake.
Yeah.
Yep. That's it. And Dirk.
Great. Yeah, so what we're showing here is basically a sample stairway. This is very representative of a lot of our clients that, you know, came from QuickBooks or some other legacy system, maybe even just spreadsheets, who knows. But basically, the way we operate with our clients is we kind of define a roadmap. It's definitely a collaboration of, you know, what do you need on day one, and where do you want to be in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years down the road? So again, this is just an example of a possible roadmap that we work through with our clients, where initially in the foundation stage, we get them up on financials, inventory management, everything around operations and distribution. You know, we talked about the Suite Commerce piece, you know, to get that up so you can start taking orders online. All of those things, you know, that typically is what we kind of see as foundation. And then eventually, once your inventory is, you know, you got perpetual, you can get demand planning going. Now we've got the data in place. Tadpole, Pond can get plugged into this. We can integrate with other marketing places. You can turn on CRM. Maybe you need landed cost or container tracking if you're buying overseas. Payroll, you know, warehouse management, all sorts of different things. So there's a defined roadmap that that we help our clients get through. So let's talk about what we have to offer here. So it is getting close to year end, both for us and NetSuite. So the addition that almost every one of our clients kind of in this space purchases what is called Suite Success Wholesale Distribution. Again, it comes with everything you would need from financials, accounting, AP/AR, everything around for distribution, inventory management, lot and serial tracking, bins, warehouses, all of that stuff, even CRM. And then, you know, there is the Suite Commerce module or add-on that we talked about. Again, that's just part of NetSuite. And then 5 users. And then we're also looking to include the audit that Jake just went through. This typically takes 100 days. Normally, we're able to get companies up on that first foundation, that first step in 100 days. The next, so costs, what are costs for this? So again, license for this is about $70,000 a year, and then implementation's right around 100 for us to get all of this kind of up and going. But we kind of have a year-end special where we can get some pretty good discounting on NetSuite, the license itself. Plus, we're willing to throw in some discounts for our services as well. So definitely right around that 50,000 in savings. So if this is something you're interested in, please definitely reach out to us. Let us know. We'd love the opportunity to talk with you and learn more about your company.
Awesome. Thanks, Dirk. And so just one last thing, we're going to have a Q&A here in a second if anybody has any questions. But the next GVO webinar, we try to do these once a month. We're going to do the NetSuite year-end close simplified on December 2nd at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. So with that, I guess the only question that I saw, and then we can wrap up here, is for Jake, is where do you get started in e-commerce? Somebody wanted to know, like, where's the starting point for them?
I would say part of it is almost like a cultural component. So if leadership really believes that e-commerce is something to invest in and consider, that's one of the best places to start. And if you have any doubts, I think going back to that data from the feds, I think is a once in a generation opportunity. So once we have kind of leadership buy-in, hey, we're going to build e-commerce, and we're going to, again, the cool thing with NetSuite and some of these tools now is you're not going to spend years and hundreds, if not millions of dollars trying to get stuff going. I mean, the tools, the Lego sets to snap this stuff together has gotten so much more efficient and so much more affordable. So now is the time to really go, in my opinion. And then the next step is kind of like building out some of those foundational data layers. And just like as Dirk was showing, once we have that foundation and all those pieces are set up correctly, now we can put the AI and the robots on top of that and really build out some automation. So that's the first place to kind of think about that, in my opinion. And then the other piece is just making sure you don't bet as we like to say here in Montana, we'll bet the garden, but not the farm. So make small bets with, say, Facebook ads or Snapchat or something like that, or Google, but don't bet everything on that because, you want to be thinking about how you're going to get traffic from search engines and how you're going to use email and some other ways to kind of diversify your traffic and ultimately your revenue. So that's the other kind of component to kind of be thinking about too.
Awesome. That's great. And we had actually one other question come in, and I'm going to ask this, Dirk. What does a typical implementation look like? I know we have some numbers there, but what does a typical implementation look like for somebody who's getting that ERP set up?
Yeah, so we very much kind of approach this what is called a Suite Success implementation. We actually won Partner of the Year for that a couple of years ago. But it really starts with, we kind of walk through leading practices of NetSuite. It is built, it's ready to go for B2B, B2C, e-commerce companies. So we kind of walk through, here's how NetSuite works, much kind of like what I did in some details. And we ask why that will or won't work for you. In most cases, what's there, and with our practices, we're able to kind of go through what we call a personalization session. We understand what your classes, departments, what your product lines are, what your customers and vendors need to be, what initial pieces you want for that foundation phase. And we get things set up. We convert the data for you. We get your team members trained, and then we're there for go live. So that way we're holding all the end users' hands till you kind of get to that stable state. And that usually happens within 30 to 45 days after go live. And then after that, then we can start, setting very targeted, Jake used the word targeted, so we kind of targeted plans to kind of let's move up the step, let's move up that stairway with some of those next initiatives.
Awesome. Well, that's great. So, okay, with that, I know we're coming up on the end of the hour. I want to thank Jake from Tadpole. Thank you also, Dirk, for your time, and everybody for joining. And if you have any questions, there's our email addresses. Please feel to reach out to you. We'd love to answer any questions you have. So with that, thank you again, and have a great day from Wisconsin and from Montana. So take care, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.